Welcome to Industry Insiders, created and produced by the Center for Entertainment and Hospitality Management at California State University, Fullerton.
During this series, we sit down with influential professionals in the entertainment and hospitality industries that are located across the world.
Our goal is to learn about each professional's career and gain wisdom from their experience in the industry.
This week's guest is Heather Hummel. Heather has worked at CAA for 11 years, where she is currently the Executive Director of Operations for CAA Speakers. CAA Speakers offers a comprehensive roster of the most acclaimed speaker clients whose topics include business, cultural commentary, print and broadcast media, wellness and inspiration, and the arts and entertainment. They are committed to helping meeting and event planners secure the perfect speakers for events. Please join us as we welcome Heather Hummel.
Welcome, Heather, to Industry Insider. How are we doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you. How are you?
We're doing well. We have our co-host here, Alex, that is with us also. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
All right, so we'll get right to it. First of all, thank you very much for joining us on a very busy Friday today with us. We are excited about our conversation.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Oh, we're delighted. So I always love to start off our chats. Maybe if you could just describe what your current role entails. And we're really curious to hear how you got started at CAA.
Sure. So I handle operations for the speakers department, which is a smaller group within the larger talent agency. And we book speaking engagements for our talent for big conferences or commencement speeches, a lot of events that range across the board, and we service the clients of the agency plus our department. Also, we rep our own talent, like business speakers and authors and those type of speakers that that you don't necessarily see on TV, or they're not an athlete, or they're not a movie star, but their primary work is going out and doing speaking. And so for the department, I kind of oversee a lot of things. I handle contracting. I oversee our contracting department, and I help manage finances for the department. And I also just have a general overview of all of our operations. So just all of the things that help make our department run efficiently. So to help the agents and the assistants and our staff have the tools and the resources they need and the programs that our department needs in order for us to conduct business and be successful at it. That, I guess, is in a nutshell a lot of what I do, which is very detailed and very busy, but I love it. So it's great. Gosh, and I guess, how did I get started at CAA?
Yes.
It's been so long ago.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, over a decade ago, which is crazy. Time flies. To be honest, I landed at CAA just kind of by happenstance. I just moved to LA from Chicago. I'm a Midwest girl. I grew up in Iowa, and I was ready to venture out and live in a big city, and it was going to be New York or LA. And I thought LA would be a better fit because of the weather. Chicago, if you know Chicago, it's cold and dreary, and I was kind of sick of that. So I moved to LA and didn't have a job lined up or anything. In hindsight, it's kind of crazy. I just came out, hoping that I was going to be able to find something. It took a couple of months. I mean, I interviewed, I interned, I had to temp, do all that fun stuff. And got lucky, I guess, timing wise, that there was an opening at CAA for an assistant position, and it was in the speakers department. And to be quite frank, I was not aware of talent agencies coming into LA. I obviously know about the entertainment industry just like any kind of bystander would, from reading magazines to going to the movies, you know about the entertainment world, but you don't ever, at least I didn't, think about the business side of what that all means. So when I got an interview for this agency, I didn't really understand how big CAA and how important CAA is in this world and in LA. So I think it kind of helped me that I went in kind of naive to the interview, because I was, nervous, obviously, but I don't think I had the full weight behind me of what this interview meant. And got the interview and got the position. And I've been in the same department for, the 11 years. I've been, started as an assistant. And because I was in a smaller department, I've been able to help this department grow. I think when I started, we were a department of maybe 5 people. And now we're a department of over 20. So it's been really, really, it's been really great to see this department grow, and for us to really pave a way for ourselves in this talent agency, because there's a lot of departments that are, the traditional motion picture and TV and sports, and so speakers, some people aren't always understand what that means, but it is a very exciting business.
As a graduate of the University of South Dakota, you took an assistant job. Many students are expecting maybe a higher, kind of management, or they want to maybe be the director right off the bat. But what was your mindset in terms of taking an assistant job and kind of getting in the door?
I guess, I knew that not having any real experience in entertainment, that I would need to start at the bottom, basically, or take whatever I could really get. And also at the time when I came in, like, I just needed a job, I just moved to LA, and I didn't have, I didn't know anybody, and I didn't have a lot of, I knew people, but I didn't have like a real base or, family support. So it was like I needed to get something. I had a little bit of money saved up, but I knew I needed to get a job. So for me, like, I was always kind of a assistant appealed to me. Like, I'm a very detail oriented, very organized person. Like, that's where my strengths lie, where I like to, have lists and be able to mark things off and put together all these like spreadsheets and stuff. So I always felt like being an assistant would probably be a good place for me to start, because I could hone in for all those skills and those things that I knew I was very strong at. But no, does anybody really want to be an assistant? No, but I would not trade in my time starting there for anything. I learned so much from the people that I worked for, and being an assistant, you have the opportunity to be a sponge and like grasp all of this information coming at you without having to have the weight of, managing people and being in charge of something. And, you want to get to that eventually, but, I think you can learn so much where you don't have so much pressure on yourself to, have things go a certain way, because you are just supporting somebody else and making sure that they're successful and what they need to accomplish and what they need to do. And I think that you learn so much by doing that.
Absolutely. So Alex and I will go back and forth with the questions. So Alex, over to you.
Okay, so Heather, my next question is like a 2-part of sorts. So the first part is, how has your role at CAA Speakers changed since the pandemic? And then the second part is, are there any interesting new trends or virtual events, creative virtual events that have come to you and booked your speaker clients?
Sure. To answer the first question, it's the whole us changing from working in an office to working remote was a little bit of a challenge, because I'm in charge of operations for our department. So that's making sure that everybody has the tools in place to make sure that they can do their job successfully. Did we have some of the stuff in place for remote work? A little bit, and the talent agency itself, I think had some of that stuff. But to be quite honest, like I don't think as a whole agency we're completely ready for everybody to be working remote. And that means, having an assistant who's not in the same office as you, trying to coordinate with them when they're at home, you know, in their place, and you're at home in your place. So it was challenging trying to get all of the tech set up, and trying to communicate to everybody, you know, how you're going to operate and how you're going to do your work when, you know, we're used to being able to just kind of shout out to your assistant who's sitting out front of your office and be like, hey, can you, you know, so-and-so's on the line, can you hop on, or do you want to talk to them? And now it was like, okay, well, how do we then best communicate to the rest of our team? And that was, you know, that was definitely a challenge, just trying to get all that set up. But, you know, I think you adjust and you adapt. And I think you all, you know, and that I think is what I've learned too, so much, is like, it's helped me, you know, you figure things out, and you make it work. And is it challenging? Yes, but I love a challenge. So I thrive on being able to problem solve and strategize and find solutions for those types of things. And then during this time, yeah, we've had, virtual is a strange world.
It is. It is.
People try to accomplish so much that, you know, it's easy to produce in live, in person, but then trying to then put that on the screen, I think, you know, it doesn't always come across, you know, I guess that's why like actors are so great, you know, it's because you really can, they can emote so much and they can do so much on a screen and you really feel it. Well, if you're not used to doing that, you know, you kind of have to adjust yourself a little bit. So we've been doing like cooking demos. We've had people, you know, perform with virtual and do, you know, like some words and music type of thing. And I think it's all great. It's just, it's been interesting to see like what people are, you know, what people want to hear, who they want to hear from, and what they want to see for the virtual thing. Because the talking head, you know, of just a regular speech, you know, if you go listen to somebody at a conference, you're probably used to hearing them talk for 30, 45 minutes, and then you take questions from an audience, right? Like that's pretty standard, but I don't think people's attention spans are quite there on, you know, on this video. So you logging in to hear somebody speak for 45 minutes is probably not as engaging as it would be if you were in a big auditorium, listen to somebody speak. So it's been a lot more, you know, like Q&A, like this kind of, you know, it's like more of a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's more engaging and people can ask questions. And so you just have to kind of adjust.
Exactly. So if you're out there watching, please feel free to put in some questions. I love the questions that are being sent in, so I'm going to ask a few. So first, Julia. Hello, Julia. Good to see you here. A lot of my students are here. I'm very happy. Happy professor. She says, since you have worked your way up to your position, what was the most valuable lesson or lessons? We'll let you give 2 or 3 lessons that you've learned in the process.
I would say try to listen and learn from the people that you're working for, they're working with you as much as possible. And you know, sometimes it's hard because you want to feel like you know everything, or you want to feel like you don't have to ask too many questions, right? You know, I think some people get afraid of asking questions or speaking up because they don't want it to be seen as though they don't know what they're doing or what they're talking about. But I sometimes think it's the opposite. I think when you ask questions and you're engaged, like you take that as somebody who really wants to learn. And I think for myself, like it was trying to adjust to that. Like I wanted to be able to communicate well with the agents that I worked for and the bosses that I had, and had to get confidence in myself to ask questions, and ask the questions because I wanted to learn more, and I wanted them to explain to me, okay, why did we handle it this way? Why did you choose to respond to that buyer that way? Or why did you choose to handle that client that way? And ask those questions, because you learn so much when they are able to explain it to you. And they also, I think, feel like you're very engaged in wanting to learn by doing that. So I would say ask questions. Don't be afraid to just show that you don't necessarily know what it is that you're doing, if that's true, because people, I think, are more willing to kind of show you the way than you think. And I think you should embrace that. Also moving up, like, oh gosh, I would say work ethic is probably like, I always think I had a strong work ethic. It gets tested. It definitely gets tested, especially in this industry, because people work a lot. You work a lot of hours. And I think, a lot of people, and it's a struggle right now with like work-life balance. I think because we're all home and everything's so much more available, with your phone, and people kind of expect you to be answering all the time. But I would say really hone in on your work ethic. And that's a lesson I had to learn too, is like, put in the hours, put in the work. And that is going to pay out in the long run, like hands down. Like if you constantly are showing that you are the hardest worker, that you can outwork anybody, and it's kind of changes in this day and age. I think back when I was, an assistant, you could put in many more hours, and it was kind of embraced a little bit more. But I think it's just showing like, that you have the hunger, that you are motivated, that you have a real drive. I think that was another like kind of lesson that I had to learn, not so much because I didn't feel like I was a hard worker, but this industry really does ask a lot of you, and you have to be, you really have to want it to know that you can put in those long hours and that hard work to be able to maintain. Because if you don't, then you're gonna get left in the dust, for sure.
Yes, you will. Work ethic, very, very valuable point. You went to University of South Dakota. Your major was contemporary media and journalism. Did you know then that you wanted to work in the entertainment industry? This is a question from Vanessa Romero. Hello, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us. What do you think?
Not specifically. I mean, honestly, like when I was in college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think that that's okay. Like I, thought I wanted to be, I guess, entertainment, because I did go the route of wanting to be like a broadcast journalist. At one point I was like, oh, that would be so much fun to like, be a journalist. I was into journalism, and I was into marketing and advertising. So then, which is like a whole range of different things you could do. But when I was in college, I was part of our news team there, the campus news team. So I would be like on TV doing, interviewing people kind of like this, because I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to be a journalist and on TV. And then as I like kind of start to get to know myself a little bit more, and you grow up, like I found out that I like behind the scenes more than I like being in front of the camera. Like I prefer to be, more doing things behind the camera, as they would say, than to be like the center. I that's not me. But you don't know that when you're in your early 20s. You think you know what you want to do, and it changes. So I would say I kind of had an idea that I would probably eventually be something around entertainment, but is it more on the business side, the operations side, more an executive side of that? There's no. If you would have asked me that in my early 20s, I don't even think I would have really grasped what that meant. I don't think I would have understood that was really an option, because you just see like kind of the stuff on TV. You see what's right in front of you. You don't think about, again, like the business side of what the entertainment industry is. Besides, I had no idea.
Okay, definitely. Alex, over to you.
Okay, so my next question is, CAA has this really cool diversity and inclusion conference called CAA Amplify, and I wanted to ask you, since you're an executive leadership role at CAA Speakers, how have your experiences been being a woman in an executive role at such a large company like CAA, especially in the entertainment industry?
It's a really good question. CAA is great about that. They always have been. I have always felt like they've treated everyone fairly, and being a woman, I never felt like that ever hindered any of the opportunities that were presented to me, because I do feel like they appreciate hard work, and they appreciate dedication, and they appreciate loyalty, and and that is, whoever you are, whatever you encompass, that is going to be treated fairly at CAA. They are always been really great. That's why, I mean, I wouldn't be at a company for as long as I have if I felt like I, was never treated, or given the opportunity to be who I wanted to be. So yeah, it's for me personally, I feel like I'm in a great place that allows women to be who they really need to be, and then they embrace the diversity of all of our colleagues.
Interesting. Now, here's another question from Vanessa Ramirez. Hello, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us. She says, post-pandemic, what after effects do you think will be the hardest to overcome in regards to the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the entire entertainment industry. I mean, I can speak to my department, which books live events, right? And we also, some of our clients also do, live performances. And I think it's going to be very tough to gradually get back into when we are all going to be able to do that. And I think what is going to be interesting to see is, even when, the state or the government allows for that to happen, where we can all gather again, how much of our clients are going to really feel comfortable, still going and traveling, and doing, being in a place where, we'll do meet and greet. You guys have been to, campus events where, you love to be able to do that, in that one-on-one in-person interaction where you get to be like a VIP meet and greet with your guest. And, like, how much of that is going to change, really? You might be able to get somebody on a stage and be able to talk, but, I think kind of the structure of how our events are going to get produced, it's gonna change. So I think it's gonna be a slow progression. I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, we're all dealing with something that we've never experienced before, and so it's really hard to say how we're all going to be able to bounce back. But I do know that, like, especially our company, we I've always done well at adapting, and I feel like we'll find ways to be able to get everybody back to, not back to the same thing. I think, Amani, you and I were talking about that. We might not be able to ever be back to what we were, but it'll be some kind of normalcy again, I hope.
Yeah. The follow-up question, which I'm really curious to hear your answer, Madison sent this question. Hello, Madison. Good to see you. She asks, how has COVID affected scouting for new talent?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, we love to be on site at events, right? Or in any place across all departments across the agency. When you go to sporting events, when you go to concerts, when you go to conferences, and you get to see your talent speak, you also get to engage with other talent. You get to network and meet people. We can't do that right now, and it's very, very tough. It's very, very tough. So it's very challenging. We can't do as much in-person stuff. But again, like I said, you have to adapt. So we are doing more. You do more outreach. You're able to see, maybe focus more on video of people, people putting more content out there. So I think you're able to see what people have to offer more online, because they're putting together, people have time now to put together a lot of content. So you get to see, like, the social media and Instagram, TikTok. We've been able to get to our clients and see, like, or potential clients, what they have to offer. And I feel like that's been beneficial too, because then you don't have to necessarily do so much of the in-person stuff, but it's very challenging. You can't really scout at all too much, because I think a lot of that comes so naturally when you're in a room with somebody and you really can understand how well we jive together. How well we get along, and we feel like this is a good relationship to have. And not that you can't do that over email or phone or text, but it's on a different level.
It's not the same, as we say.
It's not the same. No, not at all.
You mentioned networking. How important has networking been to your career, both personally and professionally?
It's important. It definitely is important. I don't know what the reason why I guess I'm hesitating with that question, or it's to say how important it is. I think a lot of people put a lot of stress on networking, and it is important, but I think to a place where you're being yourself. I've seen people network because they feel like I have to network, I have to be out there. And then they're out there and it doesn't feel genuine, and it doesn't feel, like you're there because you really are interested in meeting with people. And that doesn't always come naturally to everyone, and that's okay. There's different ways to, I guess, network and get your name out there without having to feel like you have to be put into these social situations where, that might not be exactly how you thrive. But, the more you do it, the more you feel comfortable. And if you're in an industry and you're with people that you genuinely enjoy being around, networking it just comes natural. It's just like being, with good friends and colleagues. And, like that's, how you and I met, Amani. Like, it was I think through like some connections of, I'm at CAA, but we met, and we were able to have a good relationship, and we knew that we wanted to be able to do some great things together. And that wouldn't have happened if we wouldn't have been able to get together and network a little bit. So I do feel like it's very important. But don't feel so much pressure to do it just because you feel like that is what you're supposed to be doing, because if it doesn't come natural to you and you don't feel like you're around the people that you feel comfortable with, it's not going to come off as it might backfire on you more than anything.
Yeah, excellent advice. Over to you, Alex.
Okay, so Heather, earlier you mentioned that while you were in college, you had no idea what you wanted to do afterwards. Very relatable for me. I'm still exploring, and I know for other college students as well. So what was your strategy for exploring, for staying open, and do you have any advice for students who are currently looking through this pandemic culture that we're in right now?
My gosh, I feel for you, college students, and anybody who just recently graduated. I'm sure it has to be so difficult trying to find work and jobs and all of that during all of this time. So I commend you for staying strong. I would say don't stress yourself out. I mean, you guys are young, and you don't think that at the time. You feel like you need to have it all figured out. And you don't. I would say embrace this time to really think about, what's important to you and what your interests are, and then align yourself, in those areas, and align yourself with those people. And if, again, like going back to work ethic and drive, like if you have a solid work ethic, even if you're not doing exactly what it is that you want to do your first job, let's say you just need to take a job because you have a college degree and your parents are telling you need to get a job. So you take the first job that you get, and it might not be exactly what you want, but that's okay. Just learn as much as you can possibly learn from doing that, and do it to the best of your ability, and work really, really hard. And that's just going to keep paving a path for you to get you to the place where you want to be. And I didn't really have a strategy. I think I was just, I knew I wanted to live in a big city. After college, I moved to Chicago. And my first job, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was around people that I really enjoyed working with, and we worked really hard. And, we were good at being there for our bosses. And I think that's the thing, like be supportive. If you are if you are an assistant or somebody that, your boss can really rely on, that is just going to pave you a path that's going to get you to wherever you want to be, because no matter what you're doing, you're working hard and you're putting in the work, and you're showing that you're dedicated, and that this might not be exactly what it is that you want to do, but you know what? That's okay. I'm going to do it better than anybody's ever done this before. And people really, they notice that. People notice that. So I say, don't stress yourself out. It's okay. You don't have to know what it is that you want to do. But whatever you do find yourself doing right now, just do it with a lot of passion and work really, really hard, and it will pay off in the end.
Yeah, excellent advice. Since we were on the topic of kind of our upcoming new grads and people who are about to graduate, I'm curious, what characteristics do you feel are important for new college grads to have when entering the job market today? And that's a question for me, as well as one of our students who's watching, Nico, graduates actually. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, similar. I'm come from the Midwest. We have strong work ethic. It's basically, you put your head down and you do the work. I would say, I can tell when I interview candidates, that they just want something as like another stepping stone to get to them to where they want to be, and they're not really taking that initial step very seriously. And I can pick up on that. Like, I can tell, like, okay, you think you just want to be working at CAA as an assistant because you just want to be at CAA. Okay, well, that's great, but even though you're an assistant, you might be at the very, very bottom of the totem pole when you first start. Embrace that, learn, and don't get ahead of yourself. You have plenty of time. You don't expect that right out of school that you're going to be making a ton of money, or you're going to be in that higher level position right away because, I don't know, you interned for a while, or whatever that is, because there's so many people out there that are hungry and they'll work really, really hard and they'll overwork you. So I would say work ethic for me is number one. Like, if you have a really strong work ethic and you're going to put your head down and you're going to do the job, and you want to put in the time, like, that is really number one for me. And also, like, dedication and loyalty and being passionate. I always gravitate towards people who are really passionate about what they're doing. If it's not exactly, again, like, you're an assistant, it might not be for the department that you want. It might not be for the boss that you want, but you still show you care and you're still very passionate towards what you're doing. Again, that's gonna pay ways. And I always look for that as well. Somebody who's really has a lot of drive.
Interesting. When we look, and let's say you graduated and you turned 21, were you in Chicago yet, or you were still at
No, I was in South Dakota when I graduated. Okay. And then I moved, I think that summer after I graduated, I moved to Chicago.
So we're going to go back and talk to 21-year-old Heather. Give her advice based on what you know now. What advice would you give your younger self?
Travel more. That's what I would tell myself. Which is, sorry guys, because you can't really do that right now, but so that's probably poor advice right now. But for 21-year-old Heather, yeah, I would say maybe travel more. Like, I traveled within the United States quite a bit because I did stuff with my family, but I hadn't really broadened my horizons as much. And I would tell myself do that more. I'd also say just enjoy the ride, enjoy this time, like enjoy being 21 and not having the stress of the things that come later in life. Like and I had, luckily for me, I had people in my life who would say that to me. So I feel like I had a good grasp of that at the time. Like, I never got too overwhelmed with, like, I need to know exactly what it is that I'm doing, and I need to know, I need to know my path. Like, I felt like there was enough people in my life who kind of had given me that advice, where I never felt like I was pressured too much. And I'm really super close to my family. My parents are great, and they never really put too much pressure on me as well. Like, it was always a good support system. So yeah, I would say enjoy the ride. Don't stress out. Like, it will work out, and travel more. Do more traveling. Yeah, for sure.
You've had a very a huge opportunity to work with different types of leaders, both as bosses as well as clients that you represent. What have been some of the most common characteristics of the best leaders that you've been exposed to?
I would say being firm and decisive is, like, and that's something that I've learned a lot from a lot of people that I've been able to work around. They have a solid understanding of who they are, and the type of leader they want to be, and they kind of keep down that line. And when it comes to making choices and decisions, they're very firm in what they believe in and very decisive in making those decisions. And I've also been around, people who I've looked up to who maybe don't tread that line as firmly, and they're still successful, but I always feel like, if they're wavering a little bit too much, it causes confusion with the people that work for them. So I've always thought like leaders who were very firm and decisive have always even something I want to kind of strive to be, where people understand exactly like, okay, I get her. I know what she's about and how she's going to probably some of the decisions she's going to make, and not have too many people to question that too much. Caring and empathetic, I think, are also characteristics that I find towards great, great leaders I've been around, because you have to make some hard decisions. You have to, have conversations with employees and staff that you don't want to always have to have. It's very challenging, but I think especially when people have had to have those conversations with me, if they come from a caring place and they're genuine, and their delivery, like that's always going to trump, the message being said, right? Because it's probably going to be difficult to hear some of the things that they're going to say, and it's going to be difficult for me to say those things. But if you're coming from a genuine caring place, I feel like that makes you a really good leader as well.
Interesting. Since you spoke about being decisive, we have another question that kind of ties with that from Philip Kim. Hello, Philip. Thank you for joining us. He asked, since there's been a major slowdown in the entertainment industry, what are ways to better represent your clients?
Yeah. Well, again, that's challenging too, because you want, you're here to put them to work, right? And to help them find work and to, help them make money and get their message out. And, and that's really challenging. But I think when you're able to connect and with them, and I mean, everybody's going through the same thing, right? Like the one thing that at the beginning of all of this, our clients were so great was that they understood, like we had to go to them at the beginning of this and tell them like all of these events that we had booked for you are going away, and that's challenging because they have projections just like we all do on the money that they're going to make for the year. And then when that's taken away, that's hard. And so you just have to be there for them. You have to, show their ways that you can help get their message out. We hosted, at the beginning of all of this, when we were in quarantine, we did virtual events to our, customers. And so we got our talent to do, some virtual speeches and conversations so that they are still getting their message out and they're still being able to reach an audience. But at that time, like no one was holding events at all, and so we were able to kind of scramble to put together, we were kind of doing a weekly, Monty, I don't know if you join some of those where we were, so we were, you just find ways where it's like you're keeping your talent engaged. You're finding different avenues for them to do their work. I think our books department was thriving during this time because a lot of, people had time. So it was like, all right, well, maybe, we have a client who thought about writing a book a couple years ago, but was never had time to really sit down and think about what that is. Okay, well, here, like, let's get your book done. Let's do a book deal for you. Let's get you on a podcast. Like there's different, avenues that we were able to kind of steer some of our clients to, because there is time now. They have time to think about that. They have a little bit more time to dedicate towards some of those things. So you just, again, you have to adapt, and you have to get creative, and so be there for them and check in and know that you're still thinking about them and that you're here for them, and you find different ways to engage their interest still, even though it might not be in the traditional form.
Exactly. Thank you. Over to you, Alex.
Okay, so speaking of books, I can't help but notice that impressive stack of books behind you. And as an avid reader myself, do you have any books you're reading now or any book recommendations you have for us?
Oh gosh, honestly, I sadly can say what am I reading right now? I have a couple of books by my desk. They're more client books, like Valerie Jarrett's book I've been in the middle of reading for a while, and Susan Rice's book I've been in the middle of reading for a while. So they're both clients that do speaking, and they put out books in the last couple of years. So I have those, and but honestly, I haven't really, it's so sad to say this, but I haven't really had time to read as much. And these are, all of these client books behind me, that I need to tap into, but they're all just hanging out right now because I haven't had time to get to them, so, but yeah, those are a couple that I really enjoy. And I'm in the middle of reading. I always love to read, some books about our clients when they come out with like autobiographies. You just kind of get to know them a little bit better, and you get to relate to them a little bit more.
Are there any books you've read maybe in the past that, you would recommend? It could be when you were in school or even like recently, but not maybe during this time period, just books that you love and you love to recommend to other people.
Oh gosh. Let's see. I'm trying to think of names I'm not prepared for names for books. There was a book by, let's see, I'm trying to think the name of it that was really helpful. I think it was by Jen Sincero, and I can't.
Oh,
you guys might,
how to be a badass?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite books. Have you guys read that one?
I have. Yes.
I would say you have it.
Yeah, it's around here somewhere. Yeah.
That one, I don't know. That one for some reason, like right straight came to mind is like one of my favorite books. I think it's because it was very relatable, and it's like it's pretty simple, right? Like you kind of you can take away a lot of things from that. And I think that those kind of motivational books have been helpful for me, because I kind of get into a place where, even for myself, like sometimes you don't really know what it is that you want to do. Like, am I doing the right thing? Like, how do I stay motivated and keep pushing myself to do more? And so every once in a while, it's like you need one of those books to really like, hey, you're great. You're doing what you need to do. Like, again, don't stress out. Like it'll all be great. So I think, if you find those type of books that help you stay grounded, and when you get to that place of like, you start to, go down this path of like, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or, I'm not X, Y, and Z, like find those books. That's a good one.
All right. We love it. Okay, cool. Another question actually came up from the audience. So John, hello, John. Thank you for joining us. He says, what do you think the best way is to network in the entertainment industry? And that's a special place to network. So I'm really curious to hear your answer to this one. I
would say it's kind of tough now. Networking right now is so tough because it's hard. I would say it's always going to be like in-person events, right? Like always try to go. And if you're, the university, or you have, student groups or whatever, like get involved, like, and be out there, and getting your name out there and letting people know what you're interested in. Like that's how you're going to network. You're just going to, it'll come gradual. Like once you get into something that you're interested in, you're going to find other people who have the same interests, and they're going to start to introduce you to people that are going to then help you maybe down the line. Always in person stuff, when we can do that again, but always the social events. And then I think like, find LinkedIn's a great tool as well. I feel like, get on LinkedIn and don't be afraid to reach out to somebody who's in the department or doing something that you want to do, and reach out to them. And it might not always, you might not always get a response, but I do feel like if you start practicing that, and you keep doing that, and you're you're reaching out, something's going to stick. Something's going to stick. So I think, do that as well. And then also just, I think be aware of the different kind of groups and events that are out there where it puts you in front of the people that you eventually want to work with, and the company that you want to be at. And I can say that for, even now, like I still feel like I want to find new ways to network, because you get kind of like comfortable, right? Everybody gets kind of comfortable in what they're doing. And so you always have to be a little bit innovative and creative on how you're constantly getting yourself out there. And even when you feel like, oh, I don't want to do that today, just do it.
Yeah.
Just buck up and do it, because it'll pay down the road, and people always like when people show up and they're there for one another.
Exactly. As you look at your career, where you've been, what is next for you? What's kind of next down the line, the next 2 to 4 years for you specifically?
Gosh, isn't that an interesting question right now? I hope that my industry is still thriving in a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, like I love CAA. CAA is a great company to work for. And I, would like to see myself stay here for a little while, but I want to keep growing. I'll put it out there. Like, I would love to be, COO of a large company someday. That would be, it would be a goal of mine, is to get to a place where that is a reality. So, for me, it's putting into motion the things that I can do to maybe get me there, and while I'm at CAA and while I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm always constantly learning. I'm always trying to better my leadership skills, my management skills, working with people, and Google's a friend. Don't be like, if I don't know everything, and so like, if you want to learn, like there's so many ways for people to learn more right now. Like, just Google the shit out of that, like look that stuff up. And it's true. Like, like when I first started off, that wasn't as prominent as it is today. Right. And I will say, like, I still do that too. If somebody asks me a question, I might not know the answer. And if I want to, quickly kind of understand what that is, I'll Google, or I'll call a friend and ask, like, hey, how would I, handle this? So I'm constantly learning, and hopefully be, I would say, COO of a company, running a company someday. Whether that's at CAA, if I become more of a leadership role in CAA, that would be great. But if not, probably sticking hopefully to the entertainment industry or some kind of media company, something like that is what I would say. But I don't know, that changes. You ask me that question again in 2 years, and who knows, I could say something completely different.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Over to you, Alex. Then I'll end it off with one final question. So take it away.
Okay, so as we're going through the pandemic and really weird times right now, how are you staying learning as a person, and how do you push yourself outside of your comfort zone?
I'm a social person, so working remote has been a challenge for me. And I like structure and routine. So that has been something I've had to overcome a little bit, is not going into an office, not going in to see my colleagues every day, not being around people constantly. That has been a challenge. So trying to just take mental breaks. I got into yoga. I was doing yoga quite a bit. I was doing it too when the gyms were open, but no, we lost our gyms. Yeah. The ability to go do that, and that's actually been okay. I found a great app that you basically feel like you have your own personal yoga instructor. So that, exercise, I like to go hiking, so just getting outside, which I don't do enough. Like, I'm a workaholic, I will say that, and so I'll get chained to my desk and not move around enough. But I think that has been, helpful, like just reminding myself, like, get up. Like, where before I would have colleagues that would come in and you could like go grab a coffee together, or you could go like take a walk together. Like, I don't have anybody doing that here. So it's like you have to discipline yourself and motivate yourself. And I mean, I'm sure everybody has those challenges, right? Like across the board, like you have to really like be disciplined. But I miss an office. I miss seeing people. Like you guys are great, but I would love to be able to like see you live and yeah. So that's been challenging.
Yeah. Well, before we say goodbye, now that you've talked and shared so much advice, any last minute words of wisdom or advice that have come to mind that maybe you didn't get to share with us? Also, your LinkedIn profile's there. So if you want to connect with Heather, it's okay to, hit her up on LinkedIn. That's fine. So yeah, any kind of closing advice or words of wisdoms you have for us?
Oh gosh, I would say, embrace what's happening in the world right now, and don't, again, like I said earlier, I feel for you college students. Like it has to be so challenging to have to go through this time. And I would say, like, don't, everybody's trying to adapt to what's happening in the world today. And I think that also offers you guys some interesting perspective on like what could be out there for you after this. Be creative. Like we're all going through some challenging times right now, and we've never been through it before. So are there ways to capitalize on that? I know like there might not be a lot of opportunity out there right now. If there's certain companies that aren't hiring, it's harder to break into the entertainment industry right now. That's okay. I do feel like it's going to come back at some point, but in the meantime, find some other interesting things that you can do that maybe somebody hasn't thought about, because no one's had to go through this before. Like, what are some creative ways for you to still do things that are interesting to you and that are going to make you a better person and a better coworker and colleague, and that I would say embrace that time, because we don't always have those moments. I feel like life moves so quickly and at such a fast pace, and we kind of have this time right now where things have maybe slowed a little bit, where you have more time to actually really think about that stuff. We're home now. We can't do as much, all those fun things that we love to do. And I think it's very sad, and I think we all miss that. But I also feel like it's a good time to embrace being able to really take advantage of the time that we have to be more with our family and friends and really think about the things that are important to us when we don't always get that time. So, stay calm, breathe. Everything's gonna be good. There's a whole world out there that's waiting for you guys to be successful, and we want you to come and do great things. But be patient.
There you go. All right. Well, Heather, thank you very much for spending time with us. We're really appreciative of your wisdom and expertise. And whenever we can host you on campus live, you'll be at the top of our list. So we just will stay in touch and make sure you stay safe. Alex, excellent job again. Your number 2
thank
interview.
You both. This is a pleasure.
Yes.
I appreciate you asking me.
Of course. We will see you soon. Everyone out there, take care. We'll see you, I think, next month, a little later in November, December, and just stay safe. And we will be back in a few weeks. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.